But she doesn't know it, but I've tried to tell her. She came here, but she didn't realize that what she's doing. She came into the Indian world, and in the past, the women always say that we go to a different tribe and marry into another tribe. We stay there, we die there, and we're buried there. That's their way of life, the Indian way of life. And she didn't know that when she came here. She's doing the same thing the Native Americans did. She came here, she married me, and she's going to be here. She's going to be here until she raises her children here. She's going to die here and everything. She didn't know that she's doing just exactly like the old way of life, the Indian way of life. She's doing it without knowing it. And she adapted our way of life, Indian way of life. She left her religion and everything behind. She pushed it aside. She went and lived our way of life. We don't have no religion, Indians. We have what we call Indian way of life. And we used to call this America, the continent, we used to call it spiritual island. Everything was spiritual. We prayed for everything while we lived through this, through the Indian world. We prayed for the animal we're going to kill. We have a ceremony evening before the hunt that we pray for that animal that we're going to kill. And any kind of animal that we'll go after, we pray for it. And we pray for everything, for rocks that we're going to use to heat the meat and everything with it, or we're going to use the dirt, the gravel that we used for pit barbecue and things like this. We pray for that before we even do it. It used to be that way all the time. Our civilization was wonderful. We never had chemicals or any kind of chemicals to use as a medicine. We never did. Everything from the ground, natural medicine. That's what we used all the time. The other night, I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell any of my kids, but I was going out of my breathing was too short, a shorter breath, and I couldn't hardly breathe. And I was getting to a point where it looked like my breathing was going to collapse. So I went and the old Indian medicine, I took it. And I used it that night. Everybody went to bed. I used it that night. And I prayed at the same time. Next morning I got up, felt better, breathing was good and everything. I didn't worry whether I was going to go that night or not, I don't know. But I wasn't worried. I just went to bed, and next morning I felt good, really. And these are the things that we use. That's why they called it Spiritual Island. And they used to call, we could speak to the spirits. But not anymore. The reason we couldn't anymore is because when they die, they take them to how you call it? They take them to the where they take everything out of you.
Mortuary.
Mortuary, yeah, mortuary. They take you over there and they take all your blood, they take everything inside of you, out of you, and they freeze you. And yet the spirit's gone. I mean, they take it out of you. I mean, they took everything out of you, so there's no spirit. So that anymore, they've been doing that, so there's hardly anything anymore. But all the ones that have gone before these things happened to us, we see them. The other day, two of the kids was walking up the road right here, and they see something, so they look towards the creek, and here there's a flat, sort of a flat place right there. And there was a woman and a man and two children talking, and they were dressed old time style. And this guy came from out of the creek, and he looked over, and he, just as he pointed, that those women, just as he pointed towards those two boys that was walking on the road, all of a sudden it faded away. They faded, the spirits faded away. So that somehow it caught them unaware, just surprised. And those kids, one of them said, do you see what I see down there? Those people? And he says, yeah, I did. And they both agreed that they both seen it. They came back and they told us about it. And about 3-4 days later, the same thing I seen right down there. Those things happen.
What does that make you feel or think about when you see that?
You pray.
Do I pray?
You pray for them. The past. My grandfather always says, if you see Bigfoot, they say it differently in Indian word. Tehila, that's what they call them. If you see them, don't be afraid. They're not going to hurt you. They wouldn't. They're guiding you. Instead, if you see them up close, speak to them. And that's what we do. You see them. You speak. I have never seen them before in my life, but I've seen guys that have seen them. But they, Indian fellows. And they do that. They call them by relationship, grandpa or something like that. You're here. What do we do? They don't speak to them. I mean, they don't speak to the guy themselves, but the fellow that sees him speaks to them. If you speak to them, you're not going to have such a good luck. That's the way they take it. Any spirit. It's not like this lady that said to see me pray for her before she went into surgery. That was a vision that she seen. And she followed through. these things happen in the Indian world. But not anymore. They don't see the spirits anymore like they used to. They used to see them. This part of the country, a lot of spirits. Sometimes dogs would be standing there facing towards the creek and barking. We look over, see what they're barking at. There's nobody. But they can see. They can see spirits. Dogs and horses, animals can see them. So that's why they bark. And she's on to that now too. And she could sing Indian words. She's on to things like she said pretty soon she'll pray for Indian. And everybody takes her as an Indian. The rest of the Indian people, they like her. They know she can understand Indian and they speak. These are the things that we see in the spirit world. That's why this country used to be called the Spirit World. Spiritual island, they used to call it. Because of that reverency all the time. Everything we pray for.
I think probably a lot of kids, young kids think, well, a spirit, a ghost, that's always scary.
Yeah.
And what would you say to them about what they really are?
Don't be afraid. Never be afraid of spirits because they will never touch you. They will never, they're guarding you. They're on your side. And they appear for a reason. You're safe there. But if you're going to be harmful, if they're going to harm you, something's going to happen, they'll let you know.